please welcome to the stage Hovde.
Thank you. It's very nice being here with all of you today and this beautiful day in La Crosse. Well, I guess if you watch the ads, you could say I'm the jerk from California. Look, if you can't laugh at how ugly our politics are today, you better never get into this game. Seriously, I'm a fourth-generation Wisconsinite. Hovde means head of the mountain. It's Norwegian. My Norwegian family, my great-grandparents came off the top of a mountain, the Hovde farm, back in 1905, came to this state, first settled up around the Hayward area, and then finally immigrated down to Stoughton, where my great-grandfather cemented his roots, my grandfather was raised, my father, and that's where I was born and raised in the Madison area. And then I went on to become a UW Badger graduate. Go Badgers! Football team's having a little hard time, but hopefully better luck this year. And I'm a diehard Packer fan, cheesehead, all the rest. I'm married. I have 2 daughters, 3 grandchildren. I guess you could say I'm kind of your classic entrepreneur. I started my first company in my 20s, and by my 30s, I had started a couple other companies, and then I started buying community banks around the country, and then building a real estate development company in Madison, where I live, and spend the majority of my time as I'm building apartment complex in Racine, Janesville, obviously the Dane County area, and other places in the state. Now, a couple other quick things on my background. As a young man at 27, I got diagnosed with a bad disease called MS. Now, I went through a lot of hard years with MS, but fortunately, my MS took a positive turn through lifestyle, exercise, medications, and a variety of things, and I'm doing well. But why did I share with you about my MS? Is because that propelled me to start my foundation, the Hovde Foundation, that first started focusing on medical research in MS, but then I pretty quickly shifted it to rescuing children, both in this country and around the world, from abandonment, from sex trafficking, and in the case of Ghana, slavery. And it's something I have. I have 4 Hovde homes in Africa, 5 in Central and South America. I have a home for single mothers in Madison, but I do a whole lot in this country, food banks, drug addiction centers, and again, fighting against the sex trafficking trade. I believe too much has been blessed, much is expected. To where a man's heart goes, so goes his treasure. So the question is, why would somebody who seems to have a very nice life ever get into this ugly game called politics, where every morning you get up and you see another attack ad making crazy lies up about you? Well, it's very simple, and it's maybe the same reason why you all decided to do what you do, and that is, I love my country. I love America. Thank you. Thank you. Much like you love your communities, which has propelled you to go serve your communities, America has given all of us such enormous opportunity. What our founding fathers gave us with the Constitution blessed us with more civil liberties, freedoms, and prosperity than any society in human history. There's none that compares. I've been into 100 countries around the world, and I can tell you, every time I travel abroad, I come back and I'm so thankful that I've been born and raised in this wonderful country we call America, our home. So that's what propelled me to get into this race, because I don't like the direction my country's been going for the last decade plus. I'm very concerned about the future of our country. I boil it down to a number of different issues, and I'll rattle through them for you. First, our economic future. We are bankrupting our country. We've racked up more debt in the last 3.5 years in our country's first 230-year history. And by the way, this deficit spending's been going on for 15 to almost 20 years. Now, why is that relevant? When you have $35 trillion in debt, the interest cost on our debt now is bigger than our Defense Department budget. It is going to start squeezing out federal spending at every level. It is also the reason why inflation has been ignited. Look at the price of food, look at the price of energy, look at the price of housing, look at the price of insurance. I don't know if any of you have gotten your auto insurance bill, but when I got mine, my eyes bulged out because it jumped up by over 30% in just 1 year. We're all seeing those impacts. How does that work? Why does all that deficit spending create inflation? Because inflation is always a monetary event. What does that mean? It means it's created by money printing. Why is the Federal Reserve been printing money? Because they had to buy all the debt that we've been issuing at the federal government level. So the more deficit spending you do, the more the Federal Reserve, the bank for the federal government, has to buy that debt and then create money supply. And that is the essence of inflation, too much money chasing the same amount of goods and services. So that is a deep concern to me, because great societies always fail, first by losing their moral compass, and then secondly, bankrupting themselves. The Roman Empire, the British Empire, the Dutch Empire, you can walk through all of them, the great empires of China. That's how they decline. And what it's also doing is depriving all of our children and grandchildren of their future, because when you deficit spend, all you do is you pull growth out of the future into the present. And we're leaving them saddled with enormous amount of debt. And I find that morally wrong. So that is a big reason why I'm standing here today. But you can look at other issues. You can look at our healthcare system. Obamacare promised that they were going to slow down the cost of health care and make access to health care better. The exact opposite has happened. Now, I appreciate one aspect of Obamacare, and that's pre-existing conditions, because somebody with MS, that's important. But the reality of it is health care costs have increased more rapidly, and the access of care has continued to go down. And we've allowed monopolies to be created in our health care system all over the country. And that's wrong. We need price competition, we need price transparency. Everything else you buy in life, your computer, your phone, a chair, the stand, you get a price. But in healthcare, you don't get a price. And if you get a price after spending 2 hours on the phone and you show up and get your procedure, whatever the price they gave you is quite often different than when you get your final bill. So we have real problems in our healthcare system today, and for those of you in the more rural communities, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but it's even happening in a place like Madison, where I've had a couple experiences, and many people in my companies have had experiences where they can't get seen for very urgent needs. So we have a real issue in our healthcare system. Housing. You all know this issue very well. We're short housing in this country. And we have to fix it, because young people are really struggling to even buy and afford a home. And that's wrong, because that's important to family foundations and formations. I know a lot about it. I could spend literally my whole time up here, but I only have 6 minutes left, so I've got to get moving. But say the least, housing's a top issue. Then I look at our domestic security. Whether it was one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard of defund the police, which is having such a hard impact on so many of our communities. I'm proud that I got the endorsement both by the Wisconsin Police Association as well as the Milwaukee Police Association. And to talk to those officers and how in Milwaukee they are really struggling from a staffing standpoint. I mean, that is wrong. When I go into the minority communities, one of the biggest things I hear in Milwaukee, we need the National Guard called out, because they don't feel safe in their communities. So we're jeopardizing our domestic security. And then with our open border, there are so many layers to this problem. We brought in anywhere from a minimum of 10 million to more likely 16 to 20 million people. Well, if we already have a problem with housing and health care, when you pour that many more people into our country, that's only going to exacerbate those problems for the cost of housing and health care. And by the way, there is no such thing as a free lunch. When 10 or 16 or 20 million, whatever that number is, get health care for zero cost, that cost gets transferred to everyone. Every one of the people that you serve and your county. So healthcare costs are going to continue to rise. Your insurance, we're getting ready to go through renewal rates. You're going to see what's going to happen the next 2 years with your healthcare costs. It's going to affect all of your budgets. And then the crime issue, it's been well documented. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. They know Venezuela opened their jail cells, just like Castro did during the Mariel boat lift. And we have crime problems all over this country today. And then lastly, probably the most impactful issue that I'm deeply concerned about is the fentanyl crisis. My 26-year-old daughter knows 5 young people, not close friends, but people, friends, brothers, or people she went to college with that have died from fentanyl. And Washington has done nothing about this issue. We lose more people every year to fentanyl, 108,000 last year, 112,000 the year before. It's the #1 leading cause of death of 18 to 45-year-olds. Think of that. Think of that. Vietnam War, we lost 58,000 young Americans, and yet we're losing almost twice that amount every single year to this poison that's created in China, sent to the drug cartels in Mexico, and brought up over our southern border. Lastly, they created a humanitarian crisis. I already mentioned I've been fighting against sex trafficking in our country for a long time. They've created modern-day slavery through the human trafficking cartels, and they cannot account for 100,000 children. Sadly, I can tell you, a large percentage of those children have ended up in the sex trade. So I'm concerned what's happened to our domestic security. International issues, this is not the forum for it, but look at the world today. We've got war in Europe. We've got conflict throughout the Middle East, which is expanding now aggressively into Lebanon. We've got conflict going on in Asia. The world has become less safe. Now, the last issue that I really want to talk about, which I care deeply about, is we've become way too divided as a country. A house divided cannot stand. How we construct our politics today is fundamentally wrong. Look, what should a campaign be about? 2 candidates standing in front of all of you, debating the issues, addressing the questions of the press, of questions of the voters, how they're going to make their lives better. I would love to debate with Senator Baldwin, but she's ran from every debate. That's just a reality of it. I'm going to get one at the end of the campaign, well after early voting has already commenced. I believe campaigns should be about issues. Instead, it's special interest money that comes in and creates crazy ads saying things like, I'm from California. No, I own a company in California. I own companies all over the place. That doesn't make me not a Wisconsinite. Or I'm not going to waste my time going through all the silliness. But we've got to lower the rhetoric. We have to come together as Americans. That's why I created my ad during the 4th of July. We're blessed to be Americans. We've got to start healing. We've got to start working with each other. We got to start cooperating with each other. In the world of business, if you're not willing to cooperate, you're not going to get anything done. So where I come from, I'm used to shaking hands with somebody and working out a deal. I'm not going to get everything. They're not going to get everything because no deal would ever happen. But that's what needs to happen in this country today. We are too politically divided. As I say, we've got to stop putting on the blue jersey or the red jersey, living in our own echo bubbles, just listening to what either MSNBC says or Fox says. We got to open our ears and listen to what each side is saying and reach across the aisle and work with each other because we have big problems in this country. Our younger generation's in crisis today. 77% of our young people cannot qualify for military service today, according to the military, due to mental health problems, drug addiction problems, and obesity factors. That's wrong. We've got a lot of work to do, folks. I plan on working and winning. And if I do win, I'm going to tell you one thing that you have to know that's very philosophical difference between me and Senator Baldwin. And that is, I believe too much power has been concentrated in Washington, D.C. I believe, thank you. I believe we make better decisions at our community levels, at our school board levels. You know what's best for the people that you serve. You know what's best for the schools that you oversee. That's where we need to put the power back to. Your level, not a bunch of bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. So if I get there, thank you. When I get there, I look forward to working with all of you, and you will see I will stand by what I say. I will do everything to empower you more and empower Washington less. Thank you all for your time. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful remainder to your conference. And by the way, I'm a diehard Packer fan. Go beat the Vikings. Goodbye, everyone.